It's not in the cards for you. I'm pretty good at insults, and I got the internet and a lot of free time.
The goal gets trapped inside the net, and basically you can't go anywhere. So I'll do a pan off and see how we go. I guess this is the moment of truth. Yeah. See if it's all going to be a waste of time, or hopefully it's the gold in this pan. Hopefully plenty of gold. But yeah. A monster dance. One of the best little bands I've seen in a long time, bro. Yeah. It's amazing.
With just 1 4-kilo shovel load of concentrate, revealing close to $1,000 worth of gold.
Happy days, mate. Bloody hell. We're on target.
Definitely. Paul's confident their risky ill-waste investment could pay some serious dividends.
Another gamble come off by the look of it, so hopefully there's a lot more in the pile. Keep plodding along here and I'll head up to Mecca and get it sorted out up there.
Paul heads back to their Meekatharra dry blower site to work up their hard rock mining operation as Jay processes the remaining 50 tonnes of mine waste through their wet plant. 40 kilometres southwest on their 67-hectare common lease.
We found gold, but for us to extract it, it's going to cost money to get it. That's typical gypsy style.
The gold gypsies are back.
I may need a stand, but don't tell me I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, Evan, because I know what the fuck I'm talking about, Wern Profiler. You guys are trolls. You're telling people false information about me. Shut the fuck up. Because I'm a bad boy with a heart of gold. Bruh. I unfortunately can't do anything about the television except tell the staff. It's not my TV, it's my roommate's TV. But I don't want to be overt and cause conflict. So it doesn't really bother me too much. I just put on my headphones, but it makes it hard to do videos. And he's been gone all day. But at 11, they're supposed to have quiet time. So if he's not back by 11, I'll just go down there and say that this TV's on and I'm bothered by the noise. I'll let them deal with it. Tomorrow, I'll just say something so it gets turned off when he leaves. I don't know what he does. I don't really care. He seems like a good bloke. He's just a quiet dude and watches a lot of TV. I just sit and listen to my headphones and music all day. Draw. So this is something that I came up with to explain game mechanism. So this is a mechanism. I'm not sure what this mechanism would be called. Maybe a draw and replace mechanism. I'm sure it's been done. It's not too uncommon to see a game mechanism, and you've come up with just another way to put it. And so I started thinking about this earlier today. What if you had a board that had so many chits on it, and each of those chits had like an obstacle or course, or maybe it just happened on the neighborhood, like little stuff as you're walking around. That's my problem with a lot of board games today, is they're either like medieval themed or they're space themed. It's like in the past or in the future. Why not just a game that takes place on in the present? Like maybe these obstacles are like stepping on chewing gum or finding a puppy or finding a watch on the side of the road, or there's an icky hot dog and you decide to clean it up. And that might give you COVID, or it could give you victory points for cleaning up the mess and getting rid of a litter bugs problem. So I was thinking about an idea I saw in the cartographers. They go by seasons, and you have like these tasks that you have to do. You pick a shape, like a Tetris shape. They're called polygonal shapes, and you're trying to draw in a certain way so that you get points by covering, I think, a fortress. I've only played it once, and I played it wrong one player, but I got the gist of it. But like instead of seasons, like maybe years. I mean, people rip off these game mechanisms all the time. So maybe it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I might do a 5-year exploration of space, or a 5-day walk. Like it could be days. This card mechanism in the cartographers, I really liked, because it was like it showed you how to get points by playing a one-player game, and you just compete against yourself. I was confused on how a solitary mechanism would work within a board game, and then I saw it in the cartographers, which I have in my backpack, and I really started to love this mechanism. So I was thinking maybe something like that could be ripped off with instead of a roll, or a not a roll and write, but a writing game with a board with a bunch of different crap on it. If I'm not mistaken, I've heard this described as crap on a board. Just like dudes on a board is part of the vernacular of the board game world. Crap on a board, so you might have these different things. I didn't draw them all, because that would take forever. Not forever, but, you know, my wrist hurts. I walked well over 2.5 miles today. I need to work off that hospital weight, you know what I mean? So I'm a little thinner. I want to be a large shirt by next year some point, instead of a 2X. Maybe by the end of next year I'll be a large. I want to be... I'm fine with my waist. It just... I want to weigh less, and I want to be fitter. Because I meet some chick, the only way to impress her is just by my physical prowess of being a manly man. Also, my coolness. My aloofness. Hello, how are you, darling? Let's get silly now. Want to get weird? Let's get weird. See, I can do that without it being racist. I got like 12.5% German, so I can say, yeah, you like the puppy. Bipolars, you know. Like Robin Williams, we like to make funny voices. Oh, is this Australia then? Yeah, they're popping it, eh? We're from right here. New Zealand, yeah. So, the idea is to explain game mechanisms. I'm just tangenting here. Probably a runner's high. I got a walker's high today by walking. Got those endorphins pumping, and did some paperwork today. So the object would be to draw one, replace one. You go in different seasons, years. It could be days, a 5-day walk, a 7-day walk, something like that, where you do a certain amount of things on a certain amount of thing. Combining game mechanism. This game mechanism from the cartographers I really liked, and this sort of like draw and replace thing from like the Isle of Cats is kind of a popular mechanism now, polygonal shapes. It's also featured in a game called A Feast for Odin that I own. A draw and replace. I like it. I hope you like it too. Or maybe it's a space trading exploration combat game. In a greater game engine. Ah! So I was walking around the hood today. Focus. And I noticed a free lending library. So I picked up a couple of books. I actually picked up 3. They're children's books, but it's a fascinating idea for a theme I thought would be sort of a medieval space thing. I guess you could say that's Dune. But then I thought about it. I thought of an idea today. I had that mechanism tutorial that I was showing about what a mechanism is in board gaming. And then this came up, and I like the idea of a night watch and a day watch, where it's just every block would have a block captain with a sword or a dagger. and would be trained at that. No guns, no. They wouldn't be cops in the traditional sense. A lot of cops could fill these positions, the police, but it would be someone that lived in that neighborhood that patrolled that block, like a night watch. You know, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine is a big fan of guild socialism. So too was Terry Pratchett, who did the Discworld series. And this idea of a night watch struck me like modern day knights with like emperors, kings, and queens that serve sort of a purpose in terms of being a voice of the people with potential voting power, and then you come and you can have your 2/3 vote against the king and or the emperor for as large as it is. Like the whole area would be 3 different countries, like the United States, Canada, and Mexico, down to like Central America, of like a big empire called something. Maybe the Coopire, that would be a mix of communism and monarchy, monarcho-communism. So you'd have these royal things, but you'd also have like guild communism, where you're not earning coins and gold, you're earning resources tracked on a computer, and you earn far more by being your own boss, because all businesses would be ran like cooperatives, which is an idea of guild socialism. But going deeper would be guild communism. But then combining that to please the right wing with like the monarchy that would be elected every 20 years. So they would have like medieval instruments, because why not? You know, it's a board game. You can go anywhere you want. They'd be swinging maces around. You know, and be archers. Whatever their weapon of choice was to propel a projectile that wasn't gunpowder. Like simple. A night watch. A day watch. A block captain, kind of. So I like the idea of like a modern day king and queen, or emperor and empress, that are more or less a 20-year team who share equal power, and they're chosen because they were esteemed members of their house within their cooperative, and each house would have some sort of agenda. So you'd be like walking around one day and encounter baddies like in like the old school video games, like Ninja Gaiden, or like Double Dragon and things like that, where you'd encounter like bad guys, and you're a member of the Night Watch, and like you could get stuck in gum, you know, you could come across a smashed sandwich, like picking it up would earn you points, or leaving it there would earn you points because a dog eats it, or maybe not, maybe it's just like gross, and you'd potentially mediate dice. Mitigation is where you're making something less severe. Like you roll the dice, and there's 4 different numbers on it, or 4 different shapes, and you choose one. That is a mitigation. Mediation is when you come between 2 parties to solve a conflict. Whoever Wern Profiler or Evan McMillan are they the same entity? Perhaps not. But they'll straight up like lie to me and give me unsolicited advice, which is like, guys, I didn't ask for your advice. Maybe butt out of my fucking life, huh? Fuck you. You send me emails and shit telling me lies. I know the difference between mitigation and mediation, you targs. And I just thought this was a real good book for a theme, because I like the idea of like a space castle with like guild socialism on the planet. Like everybody, like the king and queens would be part of the cooperative venture in space, where those positions would change, like exploring like anarcho-communism, or exploring communism in the terms of like cooperative businesses, and also exploring anarchism in terms of like growing your own food and being off grid even though you're at home, if you would like to be. and allowing those allowances within life. So you'd walk around the neighborhood. I showed that map the last time that I drew, where it was like a board tableau, which is the table of all these options, and then you would sort of explore or attack or trade based on maybe a couple choices on each one of the things within the thing. Maybe some have two, maybe some have one, but enough to fit on a chit that's on a hexagon, so it looks really nice. I drew it with circles, but, you know, I'm not much of an artist. I'm more of a conceptualizer. And I just thought that this book was really cool. I'm not going to show every page. You know what medieval period's like, but I remember having books like this as a kid. Oh, that's cool. What's that about? It's a fold-out, in case you want to put it on your wall. And this is cool because it reminds me of those Zuni maps, or Hopi maps of, I can't remember what the real term is, a washi or something like that. A shawi, the native term for the Zuni people. I saw the maps on a program I was watching in the hospital. I was like, whoa, those maps are cool, because it would be a map like this that would be focused more on like things being out of scale in terms of like relevance to the tribes, or things just out of scale where you'd move around. So I want like a combat map, or perhaps like an explore map, and also the combat map with the hexagons within the hexagon that you draw the tiles off of, add your tableau, and then replace them. So I'm thinking of a game like that that combines future and past elements to do something that's present. Like elements from the medieval period, elements from the far future, like maybe a Dyson sphere being built, but on Earth, everything is just like modern day 1990s Earth, but with a connecting story, just like an alternative history, kind of like that movie Titus, where it was the Roman era, or was it, where they had TVs and like chitty chitty bang bang cars. It looked like Roman meets 1920s meets 1950s, kind of. Such a weird, wonderful movie. A bit like the Hunger Games, like high-tech meets low-tech options, like science fiction meets medieval. I like that whole idea of combining those two themes, because that's everybody's favorite theme, is science fiction meets medieval. And we really need to explore like science fiction in the past, like maybe something happens, an event in the 1200s, which allows them to make a clockpunk spaceship. And clockpunk hasn't really been explored enough. It kind of has in a hokey, clunky way, like a bad Cluj work, like Wild Wild West. But clockpunk hasn't really been fully realized as a literary genre. It's a branching off of steampunk. And I really like clockpunk because I like the idea of like doing science fiction-y shit using only gears and not really explaining it fully, so that there's some mystery to it. Like, you know, how Gene Roddenberry explained everything, adding more detail, making it more colorful and beautiful. I love Star Trek. I'm a big-time Trekker. I love The Next Generation. It was a show that I watched almost every day in high school because it was on every night. And it started in 1987, and I started watching it like in 1990 something, but caught every episode within a couple of years because it ended in 1994 on just a little black and white television in my bedroom that I got for free from my dad that used to be my grandpa's. So I had that in my bedroom. Besieged. I just think the idea of combining future, past, and present elements to make something unique would be interesting. I like the idea of two different maps, a combat map and a cooperative map, kind of where you're doing the exploring on one, maybe exploring on one, trading on one, and maybe combat on another. So like 3 different maps or 3 different things that can happen on that map. And then there's more tiles within the box. When you replace it, you can replace it from your tableau or something from the box. So there's that randomness element to it, but also a lot of skill involved, which is the ideal game. The ideal board game is like 50-50 skill luck, or some sort of percentage. I like 50-50. Like you draw cards, but you might have 6 choices per card to mitigate the luck, and then maybe put something in there where a third person, like in the game Dixit, or Cards Against Humanity, or Apples to Apples, decides by mediating the choices. Shut the fuck up, Wern Profiler. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You told me the exact opposite on purpose. You're stupid as shit. So I did those videos today on game mechanism and theme because I watched a bunch of like Jamie Stegmaier videos. I wonder if Ranier Knizia has any videos, because those guys are like the best board game designers out there. Like off the top of your head, you could probably name like 5 really good Jamie Stegmaier games, including Scythe and Viticulture, which are very popular in the board game world. But he's cool. I really like his videos on game design. I watched this British bloke talk about some shit too, and I thought that was really cool. I think that by watching those videos on how to design a game is really making me want to buy the Big White Box, because the Big White Box has 25 essays in it on how to design games, and it's really hard to find a book on how to design games. It's exactly what I'm looking for to kind of have as a reference key for game design. Just looking at that helped me understand how to build like the Euro style games. So I had that video where I just kind of winged it today and came up with a game. I'm noticing that the pills for bipolar, like the mood stabilization, are helping me without getting rid of my creativity. I'm able to focus more. I'm taking Abilify and Depakote, and I'm walking a lot because I know it can make you gain weight and be really hungry. And where I'm living at now, the food is great. My only real complaint is they don't serve enough of it because it's so good. I'm going to be left with not a lot of money. It's cost me $744 a month to do this. But it's fully staffed. It's like dorm living in a college. It's co-ed. The guys live with guys and the women live with women. There's a lot of people complaining about wanting to leave the place, but I like the place because it's so staffed and well organized. And apparently they have 6 cupboards full of board games. And my heart just goes thinking about that shit, because they're always doing other things. So I'll go off and do something else, and then I'll come back and then they're doing something else. My mind isn't really racing, I would say, but I'm full of ideas now. I'm able to visualize how games might be played. I might look at a video and see how somebody from Cardboard Edison designed a game, and then I'll look at that and how they won their prize and think, oh, I can do a spin on that. So what I was thinking was what I was doing with the hexagon filled with circle chits, or possibly other hexagon chits, where you would, the winning condition, this is what's known as game execution. I've talked about luck mitigation. I've talked about mediation in a game. Luck mitigation would be where you have more choices when you roll the dice, like a dice with 3 or 4 different things on it, a card that might have 3 or 4 different things on it, or multiple things on it, and you choose one. So it's luck, but at the same time, you choose based on what your luck gives you. Kind of like Scrabble. You choose what your luck gives you to build from your own imagination some sort of attack or whatever. Like maybe you'll have 10 cards, and each one has 10 options, and you can pick 5. By designing that Lycan game that I'm designing, that I may or may not build, it's more or less like 10 games in one. Because I want to go for the world record of the most biggest table eater game. I want it to fill a big space. I want to spend a lot of money on it, so I'm thinking about getting a job at Safeway just to fund my addiction. And I know only board game designers could understand this, or meth addicts, because it's a very similar high, without being an asshole like a tweaker. But we're both people with those kinds of big ideas. I'm sure I'll get compared to the Castles of Dunshire, the people that understand the reference to the old Parks and Rec episode, where he was sick from work and just covered the living room in this massive game that was stupid. You know, it was all based on, like, rolling the dice. Like, if you roll 3, 4, 7, this happens. I don't like that idea. That takes the fun out of it for me. I like the idea of, like, you roll the dice and you have 3, 4, 7, and 9 on there, and then you can go to another thing and draw a thing and whatever. So you saw what my idea was for a game mechanism. I don't know how you would put the draw and replace, but how would you score it would be the game execution. So what you would do in a game like that where you have a hexagon filled with other hexagons is you might draw 3 from the face-up pile, and all your opponents would draw 3, and you look at that, and you have between 3 and 12 options, because up to 4 options could be displayed on each piece. And you look at that, in your hand where nobody can see, and you decide how you're going to play it. Kind of like a game of Magic the Gathering, but you're building a set in your hand, so more like poker in a way, but with much, much more depth and clarity and much, much more optional executions. So how would you score it? Just by like how many hands you won or point value? I like that idea, but there's this whole thematic going on now with like Tetris shaped pieces. I just bought a game called The Cartographers that's awesome because it fits in my backpack, and I was in the library and I played a one-player solitary version of it. And I found it to be cool, even though I didn't play it correctly. I started to understand how you would compete against yourself for high score. I think I scored a -1, but that didn't make me feel too bad because the guy who instructed me how to play the game, Rodney Smith, who does those how-to videos with his kids sometimes on how to play games, only scored a -1 on The Cartographers when he was doing that video, so I don't feel so bad about it. And then I watched the what did I say? The Stegmeyer videos. Jamie Stegmeyer. He's, I think he might be a millennial. Like he's coming up with all sorts of ideas, and his wife Megan are playing, their girlfriend or whatever, I don't know, is SO, are playing these games together, and he's playing with his buddies. He's Stegmeyer, he's fucking Stegmeyer. He's like the Michael Jackson of board game design. Well, maybe like the Prince. And of course, Ranier Knizia, I'm probably just butchering his name, is like the Michael Jackson of game design. And there's a whole bunch of other people. Ravensburger designed Carcassonne, and I don't know if there's more games out there designed by some people that I might know. I know that Tom Vassell designed a game called Vicious Fishes that didn't look really interesting. He's not a game designer, he's a game reviewer, and I really like the Dice Tower. A great program on YouTube. I used to watch that all the time when I was going to school. More on that later. That's all sorts of fucked up from COVID and shit. I was doing microbiology and I just quit when it got hard because it was hard to move the things around my phone. I should have bought a computer. I realize my mistake now. A computer is like $1.20, you know what I mean, $120. But I didn't buy one with my money. I went out to eat a bunch of times and shit because I bought everything that I needed after the book and for the health class. So I'll go and correct that if I go back to school. I'm kind of thinking of like staying off of school for a while. What I'm looking at is what's more fun to do that earns me the most amount of money, because I hate capitalism. I hate capitalism because you have to go through these steps in order to get life to be good for you. You know what I mean? You have to find your fun little thing that makes money in life in order to succeed, rather than just like going around and gardening your neighbor's garden and working for the carrots out of it. Say, hey, I garden these carrots. I just have some carrots. I like the whole farm model. I wish we were an agrarian, like a techno-agrarian society without any leaders or police. It just, everybody would be managed by a block captain with a sword. And that would be our legal system. But I've been tooling around with the idea of monarcho-communism as a way to sort of reference leftist politics within board gaming. And the thing that I just, houses of the proletariat, that thing that I showed you, I don't care if somebody takes that idea and builds a game based on it. I'm going to build my version of it. You build your version of it. I don't really care. I do care because that's my idea. If you steal it, you're a jack fool. And on the level is a bitch, but, at the same time, nobody's going to steal from the Wern. Because, you know what happens when you fuck me over? Bad luck seems to happen. I'm not in control of the universe. The universe is in control of the universe. Some sort of fluke. You fuck over Luke. Can't spurn the Wern. Which is true as shit. But anyway, I'm thinking about execution. So you have that execution of the game by drawing 3 tiles, and then you look at it, and you have between 3 and 12 options of how to play. If you look at the thing that I talked about before, my favorite part of the other game that I'm designing, it's gone through many names. The Reign of Space Pollen is what I'm going with now, or just Space Pollen. The game that I'm thinking about now is Houses of the Proletariat. So I would probably build that one first because it costs less money, and see how that one does on the market if I do a Kickstarter for it. It's pretty easy to do that. Oh, they turned the lights out. Damn it. Another one of the Wern's dark videos, fuckers. But yeah, I want to do this game, so I figured out the way to play it. But I kind of want to attach another part to it. I want to kind of double up on it to where when you get a block, there's 3 sizes of blocks. I think I showed that red map of those 3 sizes of blocks. If you go back in my videos for the past couple of days, so you fill out a block, and that would allow you to have some sort of attack mechanism. I don't know if that would convolute it or not, but I want the game to have a second board. I kind of like the idea of you fill out a block, then you get a night watchman or a day watchman patrolling that block, kind of like a fence, where they have the option to steal your block if they fill it out before you do. But if you finish out the block, you get a block captain. The block captain would have some sort of combat mechanism. I'm looking at these games trying to figure out things like cooperative efforts and competitive efforts, and I don't know how to do that yet. So I'm going to watch a few more of those design videos, and maybe by tomorrow for Houses of the Proletariat, I might have a combat mechanism to go along with the hand management tile combat mechanism. I guess it's cooperative enough. I mean, I think it would just be convoluting it. My dad would say simplify, simplify, simplify. So that's what I'm trying to do. But there's a part of me that likes complexity, that likes a lot of depth, that likes a lot of different components. I'm really addicted to games with a lot of components, like Antiquity or Feast of Odin. There's that Feast for Odin. I own the game. It's just all in storage right now because I was homeless for a year and a fucking half. So I'm thinking I'll just keep it the way it is, kind of simple, and see where it ends up. But I like the idea of harvesting meets war game, like a harvesting game meets war game, where you have these tasks, but you also have a way to have a way of fighting. I guess the hand management thing with the tiles is your way of fighting. I have a tendency to want to complexify to make it deeper down. But I think I'll just keep it this way because it's the kind of game that I could see playing with my dad or my stepdad and them really enjoying. So if you look at games like Isle of Cats or the Cartographers or Blockus or Feast for Odin, you'll notice that sort of Tetris polygonal shape mechanism. So it would be a thing where you would tally up, it would be 120 different blocks, different sizes, 3 different sizes. And if you complete the block, you would get a point, or 2 points, or 3 points, because there'd be 3 different sizes. And that would be the way to do it. One block is built with 1 square, the other block is built with 9 squares, and then the next block up is built with 16 squares. So if you complete like 100 of them, or however it's organized, 120 or whatever it was, when I actually complete it, that would be your point scoring mechanism by completing blocks. So it wouldn't be based on VP, it would be based on polygonal shape construction, which is exactly what I was looking for, because I built like in my mind this massive game to kind of trick my mind into building 10 games at once. And I might actually build this 10 games table leader game that's going to cost like $500 to build, just to flash how skilled I've become by thinking obsessively like a tweaker without tweak on how to design games. And designing games is fun. It's like a drug, and it's a healthy habit. But my mind is either gravitating towards that or how to get a hot chick in a bed with me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a guy, and I'm a guy's guy. I'm always hanging out with guys. They could talk about cars, and I'm not really a big car guy. They could talk about sports, and I'm not really a sports guy. But I'm there to listen, you know what I mean? Because, like, I travel the spirit of man. And that's just how I roll. But it's not like I'm going up to the girls, like, my shit is more important than their shit. You know what I mean? I go up, when I meet women, I try to make their shit more important than my shit. Unless they're the type of shit that likes my shit more than their shit. If that makes shit sense. So that's how I roll. Usually when I meet a chick that I like, I go up and I say, I just thought you were really pretty. And after she says thank you, walk off like a wimp. Or I've walked up to chicks before and say, you know what, I need some pussy. And then walk away as they start like giggling, you know, at the bar scene or whatever. Because there's nothing I could goddamn do about it without any kind of like ID card other than a copy. I've just tried different bad boy things because I know chicks like bad boys. I've tried to force myself into being kind of a bad boy without being a stupid bad boy. I don't do drugs or anything like that. I don't drive a car for reasons of I don't want to pollute the air. I didn't want kids for a long time because of overpopulation. But I got a heart of gold, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking at veganism as a way to improve my health and hurt animals less. People bitch and moan about like soy being bad for the environment and taking nitrogen out of the soil, but when you look at it, you're hurting less life forms because you're hurting less animals. And that game that I'm making with the 10 games in one, it's all based on a plant-based sentient life form. Like I'm the sunshine of the world or something. I don't know. I'm just goofing. But, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that the game execution is the vital point of the game. The things that you really want, I think, I love Jamie Stegmaier's take on, you can look up his channel, on like the 10 things you need to design a game. I like simplifying things too. I like complexity as well. I could watch that Tom Vassell video series of his 100 favorite dexterity games over and over again. That's fascinating shit. The fact that there's so many damn dexterity games. It just goes to show how hard at first it is to design a game mechanism that you just go to dexterity things where you're basically playing a sport on the table, like flicking things or whatever, or like pulling things like Jenga or Connect 4. And those are awesome games. Those are awesome family games to play. The thing I don't like about it is it can occasionally kick things off the table, like when you're playing Jenga and you can lose pieces real easily, unless you've got a proper game table, which costs thousands of dollars. I like to make games that anybody could afford that are between $50 and $200. Because, I mean, I'm on EBT, you know what I mean? That's the Quest card, that's food stamps. And I've bought games that have cost $100 before. $90, and I can do it on my benefits. And I know damn well that each dollar you spend for benefits contributes 82 cents to the Washington state economy. It goes right to the state. I don't know how it works, but I know that's how it works. Is you spend $1 from your Social Security or from your food cards, it contributes more to the economy than what is given to you. That Social Security thing is different from what your taxes pay for. A lot of people don't realize this. Republicans maybe just now became enlightened to that fact that if you spend money on your Social Security, you're going to generate money towards your state's economy more than what you spend. Everybody should have a ration. Yeah. So I like the game execution that way. I like the idea of a theme that's both modern and medieval. Well, I guess also like medieval, modern, and space. Like combining that idea, like guild socialism might be if it was in the modern day. I love Terry Pratchett's Discworld series from what I've read about it on the Wikipedia articles about it. I've not read his books, like The Color of Magic and all these books everybody says is this from the house. Everybody says are funny, like what's his name? Like Douglas Adams books. So I like those ideas of hybrid time periods, like medieval in space, or monsters in space on castle ships. So right now I'm looking at things like game execution, game mechanism, and game theme. Those are the 3 things. Jamie Stegmaier has 10 things essential to a game, but I think that can be just narrowed down to 3 things: thematic, mechanism, and execution. Okay, so the general theme of this is a true communist state where people get the surplus of their labor, which means you would work all day and whatever is left over after trading it or selling it, you would get as a worker. But it's within the framework of being a royalist society, if that makes sense, which I know it probably doesn't, but it's just there to be kind of a wacky thematic to teach about the good merits of communism. So this is my idea. You're going to have a bag of like 300 chits, and like a bag would fit like 600 of them. I have that game that I designed called Cafeteria Uprising that was probably one of the better things that I prototyped. That and Verbus, the word game that came up with the cooperative bananagrams sort of thing. So you have your board, which will be considerably bigger than this because that's just drawn on paper. That's really small. That's just the size of a large tile. It would be like the size of a Monopoly board, for instance. Quad board is how it folds up on the Game Crafter, so it would be a quad board. If I want to go crazy, I'll make a hex board, which would be 6-sided, but those cost a lot of money. The hex is $20, and the quad is 10. So I'll probably try to design it for a quad board. The object is you start out and you set up the board 32 per the board. It'll be like outlined how you set it up on the board. 32 smaller hexagons. And each hexagon will have between 1 and 4 conditions with a brief on each shape. So there'll be enough to write on each one of them. Kind of like Tetris shapes. They're called polygons. It's kind of a hot new trend now in game design. There'll be 32 on the board at a time. You draw 3 and replace 3 every turn from your Counter-Strike tableau, which would be a face-down table of the ones that you've previously drawn that you may like, that you didn't want to battle with. You decided to keep them for another time because they're such good draws. It was like, or they're your second best, or whatever you like of your 3 that you draw each turn. You'll set up your tableau first from the bag. You'll draw 5, and you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, these are what I got. These are what I have to work with. But you can replace them by trading them for another one on the board, or possibly from the sack itself each turn, or just dealing with what you got because you like what you got. There'll be a bag of 300 of them, which is about half the bag full, 3 times the amount of Scrabble. It's still not a lot. It's just to institute randomness. There'll be 20 of each of the hazards. I'm not good with the math. It'd be 10 of each of the hazards repeated 3 times. So, hazards are not the way to put that. It's we'll get to that on the next page. So you're kind of attacking like you would Magic the Gathering. It would do a certain thing, like it would.
The boss is right there.
Each condition, that's what they're called, condition would be able to fight any other condition. The name of the game that I'm going for so far is Basilia of the World Cooperative, because it just sounds neat. A Basilia or a Basilina was an emperor, empress in ancient Greek times, and I just like that term. So those all match up to a condition. You can have a hazard, a prize, a weather condition, an ability condition, a friend condition, an enemy condition, a memory condition, a hunch condition, a food condition, a sickness condition. If you're crowned the Basili, in other words, you win.
No, wrong one.
Each one battle earns a shape, and you're trying to fit them on the fiefs. There's 3 different sizes of fief, the 5-point, the 10-point, and the 20-point. Just to give a general idea, the object is to completely fill in a fief and earn those points. So it's a fairly simple concept with a game mechanism that I came up with yesterday, kind of a draw and replace mechanism. And I've never seen a game exactly like this or anything. I've seen a few games that are sort of like this that use far more components, and my idea is to kind of cut down on the components but still have a compelling gameplay that's complex enough. The complexity weight would probably be a 2.5 out of 5, perhaps a 3, because it's kind of hard to fit your polygons on here.
Light just pull in. You don't want your light out here.
black guys and the rich old guys. Like, I'm neither one of those. I'm not rich and I'm not black, honeys. I'm definitely a Marxist. I'm more of an anarcho-communist, socialist-leaning type, you know. Any in that Marx field left of the Democrats, it's where you're going to find me. If you're only going to date rich old guys, the Generation X and baby boomers, I got to tell you, they're hooking up at Bistango on Lower Post Street. Post up, post up. You know it's true. And all the other drinking establishments around Bistango, I don't want them to lose business. I want them to have business. I think the age gap scene, it really needs to start popping. That's hot as fuck to me. The midlife crisis or whatever, and you're just plowing into that pussy because you got dollar signs. I mean, it's still kind of fucking hot, you know. But it's just about money. Like I don't exist or something. Yeah, okay, well, whatever. I'll fucking fuck the shit out of you. I'll lick it down. You know, whatever. It's not like I don't eat pussy or something. I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna go eat. I don't know what I'm gonna go eat. I don't know. I kind of just want to be alone right now. Piss me off. I want to. I'm new to this live chat on this particular phone. I want it stop. What? Do I have to press the X? Fucking A. You know, you're just fucking the black guys and the rich old guys at Bistango. You're hooking up at Bistango. Right, like I don't need a clit. And right, like they don't talk like me. Shut up. I'm trying to think if I could find a flaw in this game idea. So you have a hexagon like the size of a game board, like Monopoly. You have just a big hexagon in the middle of it. And that's covered in 36 other hexagons covered in polygonal shapes like Tetris and some other new ones. But kind of in that small, like, 1 to whatever squares in length. I guess I stopped at 4 in length. All the pieces kind of fit together in that hexagonal thing. You have a grid with different sizes of squares scattered seemingly randomly. And you win them by pulling the hexagons off, and they have an icon on it with maybe a little instruction like rain cloud. It would look like a rain cloud. It would have an icon on it that would describe like something to do with the rain cloud. But then you combine it with whatever they play, like Magic does with power and toughness, I guess it would be. Attributes. That's not exactly what it is. I haven't played Magic in years, but power and toughness. How much power you can get out there and how much toughness you can come back with. Some are hazards, some are abilities, some are weather patterns, some are friends, some are enemies. But you look and then you choose one. So you draw 3 each turn and you fill up your tableau before that of 5 face down. So you essentially have a 8-card hand every time, trying to defeat your enemy's 8-card hand. But they're hexagonal squares about that big with polygonal shapes on with an icon on the polygons. And there's between 1 and 4 shapes on each hexagon. So there'll be an icon up at the top and perhaps like a little description of what it is. So they're basically like enemies. They're basically like creatures or whatever within the play work. I'm kind of debating the idea of mana because mana is how you pay for it, right? You know, I don't need the mana to activate the cards. I could do it kind of in the same framework of like a poker hand defeats this poker hand, but that's seemingly like two solitaire games. Poker to me seems like a fun game, right? I've played enough poker to know it's a fun enough game, poker nights and stuff like that. But my problem with it is it's like a 4-person solitaire game, whereas Magic the Gathering, you're more or less interacting with the people. So you don't need mana. You would have to have some way that to denote from that icon what it does, like a snow cloud would do what to bubblegum. Well, bubblegum would freeze within it. It would have to... It's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors sort of dynamic, but more like rock, paper, scissors, lizard, if you're familiar with the RPS, the rock, paper, scissors, where it's like a lot of these characters, and you're just organizing on that pattern. You're kind of, I guess you just sort of guess, but it's like rock, paper, scissors. Is it all luck? That seems like rock, paper, scissors is basically all luck. You're kind of going off of what they would want to do if they could do that. But you would, I guess it would be like Magic the Gathering, where you don't have to lay down mana, but you would have to display one from your tableau or one from your hand, because you would draw 3, which means that you would essentially have 12 options at most in your hand, between 3 and 12 options in your hand, and also your secret tableau that you can reveal one. So you reveal one from your hand or your tableau every turn, like, on the next turn I can get you with this one. But you just wouldn't use mana. You would have to lay something down, and something's going to get defeated. So, like Magic the Gathering, a little simplified, but on tiles. Like, I'm gonna lay this down, and there are those 3 options. I'm just gonna pick the most powerful one. But even that might not work. But you might pick a least powerful one, because you need to fill in that space on the grid in order to win over that fief. A fief of counselors. See what I mean? It's kind of like, the theme is a little bit combination of communism meets medieval times, instead of like wards. Wards are basically neighborhoods in a communist system, where you have like counselors, like a cooperative business. A cooperative business is ran by everybody involved. They're usually small businesses like food co-ops or clothing co-ops or stuff like that. But it's to kind of introduce that idea of communism, and also kind of to play around with the idea of a monarchy system to make it kind of regalic and neat, So that's what I'm saying, like a Magic the Gathering without mana, and you're not necessarily going to play with the largest one on that hexagon, because you might need a shape in order to fill in that fief with whatever you're planting on it or putting on it or whatever. It could just be houses. It doesn't really matter. They're buildings, you know what I mean? They're just basically buildings, and you're covering your fief building a citadel over your entire town by doing it one fief at a time. A fief of counselors might be a better name for it than houses of the proletariat. A fief of counselors conveys like, oh, they're a fief, but they're cooperative. Ooh.
You're scaring the hell out of me, man. Everything that I do good, I try to do good, and